Walter Max Sisulu was a prominent South African anti-apartheid activist and a key figure in the African National Congress. He earned the infamous title of Accused No. 2 during the Rivonia trial, which saw him imprisoned on Robben Island for over 25 years due to his revolutionary efforts against apartheid. As a close ally of Oliver Tambo and Nelson Mandela, Sisulu was instrumental in the 1952 Defiance campaign and played a pivotal role in forming the ANC Youth League, as well as Umkhonto weSizwe. Additionally, he was a member of the Central Committee of the South African Communist Party. Born on 18 May 1912 in the village of Qutubeni, which lies in the Engcobo district of what was then known as Transkei, Sisulu's exact birth date was somewhat unknown, a common occurrence for many in his generation. He was born out of wedlock to Alice May Sisulu, a Xhosa domestic worker, and Albert Victor Dickinson, a white civil servant and magistrate who had little involvement in his upbringing. They reportedly met once in the 1940s, before Dickinson's death in the 1970s. Raised primarily by his grandmother and uncle, Sisulu formed a close bond with his uncle, the Yankee Hlakula, who had a deep appreciation for Xhosa culture and played a significant role in his initiation. At the age of 6, Sisulu moved in with his mother, but tragedy struck when his uncle passed away, prompting him to leave school at the age of 15 while in Standard 4. To help sustain his family, he sought work in Johannesburg, where he studied at a dairy. He later returned home to undergo traditional Xhosa initiation rites before heading back to Johannesburg in 1929 to work in a gold mine. Eventually, he moved back to the Eastern Cape, reuniting with his mother, who had secured a domestic job in East London. It was in East London where he met Clemens Kadali, the influential leader of the Industrial and Commercial Workers' Union. Sisulu later reflected that his experiences in the mines and his association with Kadali were pivotal in shaping his political consciousness. In 1933, he returned to Johannesburg and took up residence with his mother again, working at a premier biscuit factory while also attending night classes at the Bantu Men's Social Center. However, he left school before completing Standard 5. His political activism blossomed as he became involved in the Orlando Civic Association and served as the secretary for the Orlando Brotherly Society, a cultural and mutual aid organization catering to the Xhosa community. In 1940, Sisulu's courageous spirit landed him in hot water. He was dismissed from the bakery job for leading a strike demanding higher wages. This marked the beginning of a tumultuous decade in which he would move from job to job, often leaving due to disagreements driven by his unwavering principles and commitment to justice. Sisulu began his journey by entering a partnership with a white estate agent, eventually branching out to start his own business. In 1940, at the age of 28, he took a significant step by joining the African National Congress, signaling his commitment to a greater cause. In the following year, Sisulu crossed paths with Albertina Tetiwe, a spirited nursing student hailing from Transkei. His admiration for her blossomed so quickly that the notion of marriage soon surfaced in their conversations. On July 15, 1944, they tied the knot during a civil ceremony, followed by a celebration at the Bantu Men's Social Center in Johannesburg on 17 July. The event featured notable figures such as Dr. Xuma, then president of the ANC, and Anton Lembede, president of the newly minted ANC Youth League. Lembede's humorous yet touching words served as a gentle warning to Albertina. She was marrying not just a man, but a man deeply devoted to his nation's liberation. Together, the Walter and Albertina Sisulu family grew to include 5 children: Max, Lungi, Zwelakhe, Lindiwe, and Nonkululeko. They also embraced the responsibility of raising Walter's sister's children, Gerald and Beryl, along with Walter's cousin's son, Jongumzi. During the early years of their family life, Albertina worked diligently as a nurse, while Walter's mother played a vital role in caring for the children. Albertina's background was relatively sheltered, but her relationship with Walter opened the door to the political landscape. She soon discovered that her husband was passionately dedicated to the liberation struggle and the growth of the ANC. Like Nelson Mandela, Walter became not only a mentor, but also a guiding light for those who crossed his path. Their early courtship was punctuated by their attendance at ANC meetings, where Albertina quickly emerged as a formidable leader in the fight for freedom in her own right. In 1944, Sisulu represented the Orlando branch at the ANC's annual national conference in Bloemfontein, where a pivotal idea emerged: the formation of a youth league proposed by Leslie Gama. Sisulu, along with fellow activists William Nkomo and Lionel Majombozi, both members of the Communist Party, rallied others to support this critical resolution, leading to the establishment of the ANC's youth wing. In that same year, Sisulu was elected to the executive committee of the newly minted ANC Youth League, joining the likes of Anton Lembede, Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and Ashley Mda. It's noteworthy that Albertina Sisulu stood out as the only woman among nearly 200 men at the League's founding conference for the Transvaal branches. While the Youth League initially thrived on Anton Lembede's passionate African nationalism, Sisulu maintained a more pragmatic stance, notably regarding the ANC's cooperation with the Communist Party and the Indian Congress. During World War II, Sisulu actively campaigned against black South Africans enlisting in the army. He urged the Youth League to push for reforms within the ANC, advocating for boycotts and direct action to meet the urgent needs of the disenfranchised population. His early activism brought Sisulu into conflict with the law. He was arrested following a confrontation with a white ticket collector on a train over the confiscation of a black child's season ticket. Furthermore, during the 1946 African mine workers' strike, which the ANC opposed, Sisulu contemplated sabotaging the rail line between Soweto and New Canada Station, but was prevented when his bomb supplier failed to show up, marking a failed early attempt at resistance tactics. Rapidly advancing within the ANC, Sisulu became a member of the Transvaal Executive and took on the role of secretary for the Youth League. At the ANC National Conference in December 1949, he played a crucial role in adopting the Youth League's bold program of action. Moreover, he was elected ANC Secretary General, narrowly defeating Dan Klume, a left-wing candidate. Sisulu's unwavering dedication and exceptional strategic mind played a vital role in transforming the ANC into a dynamic national organization focused on mass mobilization. By 1950, as D.F. Malan's government unleashed a wave of harsh racial laws under apartheid, the ANC sprang into action, forming a committee to orchestrate joint campaigns alongside the Indian Congress and the largely colored Cape Franchise Action Committee. This coalition would eventually evolve into what became known as the Congress Alliance. Walter Sisulu and Yusuf Kachalia were appointed joint secretaries, with the first major initiative being a call for national work stoppage on June 26, 1950, against the new oppressive apartheid laws. At that time, ANC President James Moroka lived in the Orange Free State, far removed from the daily operations in Johannesburg, the commercial hub of South Africa. As a result, Sisulu assumed many of Moroka's responsibilities while continuing his role as Secretary General. He became instrumental in the planning and advocacy for the 1952 Defiance campaign, leading a group of passive resistors that resulted in his arrest and a brief imprisonment. This marked the beginning of Sisulu's long struggle which led to his first of many banning orders under the Suppression of Communism Act. In December 1952, Sisulu, along with Mandela, Moroka, and others, faced trial under the same act for their leadership roles in the Defiance campaign, resulting in a sentence of 9 months hard labor, suspended for 2 years. In the same month, he was re-elected as Secretary General of the ANC. Sisulu embarked on a significant journey in 1953, traveling for 5 months across China, the Soviet Union, Israel, Romania, and the United Kingdom. His experiences in these socialist nations profoundly influenced him, leading to his decision to join the outlawed and newly reformulated South African Communist Party upon his return. This move marked a pivotal moment, solidifying the alliance between the ANC and the SACP. Meanwhile, Walter and Mandela found themselves banned for 6 months, prohibited from attending gatherings or making speeches. Undeterred, Sisulu continued his ANC work in secrecy, contributing to the Organizing Committee for the Freedom Charter campaign and the Congress of the People in 1956. However, in December, Sisulu's activism caught up with him, as he was among the 156 individuals arrested on charges of high treason. The preparatory hearings for the treason trial commenced on December 19 at the Johannesburg Drill Hall, with Sisulu standing as a defendant. After a lengthy legal battle, he and 30 remaining co-defendants were acquitted on March 29, 1961. The political climate turned turbulent after the Sharpeville massacre in 1960, leading to a state of emergency that saw Sisulu and many co-defendants from the treason trial imprisoned for several months. Following the crackdown on the ANC and the Pan-Africanist Congress, Sisulu found himself under house arrest. Yet, in June 1961, he took part in a clandestine meeting with Joe Slovo, Nelson Mandela, and Govan Mbeki, where they discussed the formation of Umkhonto weSizwe, the armed wing of the ANC. This select group became High Command of MK, with Sisulu serving as political commissar, alongside Mandela, who held the title of Commander-in-Chief. Throughout 1962, Sisulu faced relentless harassment from police. His legal troubles culminated in March 1963, when he was convicted of promoting the aims of the banned ANC and for orchestrating the May 1961 stay-at-home protest. Released on bail while appealing, he was placed under stringent house arrest. However, on April 20, 1963, Sisulu evaded his bail conditions and went underground at the SACP's secret base at Liliesleaf Farm in Rivonia. On June 26, 1963, Sisulu delivered a brief broadcast from a covered ANC radio station. Just weeks later, on July 11, police raided the farm, resulting in his arrest alongside Govan Mbeki, Raymond Mhlaba, Ahmed Kathrada, and others. The Rivonia Group, as they became known, faced 88 days of solitary confinement. In October 1963, they were charged, leading to a life sentence for all during the Rivonia trial on June 12, 1964, for their roles in planning acts of sabotage against the apartheid regime. That night, they were transported on a military plane to the infamous Robben Island, leaving behind the chaos. Albertina took on a formidable task of raising her and Walter's 5 children, along with her late sister's 2 kids, 7 lives resting on her shoulders. Albertina became the backbone of the family, the sole provider, and an unyielding link between the ANC leaders locked away in prison and those exiled beyond the borders. Despite her resilience, the security police made her life a nightmare, relentlessly harassing her, enforcing restrictions, banning her, placing her under house arrest, and occasionally imprisoning her, sometimes in solitary confinement. Meanwhile, on the island, Sisulu was not idle. He used the opportunity to study, earning his O-levels, while making the most out of prison life. He initiated structured political discussions, turning the Lime Quarry into a classroom where he lectured on the history of the ANC. Sisulu's influence extended beyond education. He emerged as a powerhouse of political organization, within the prison walls. Alongside a few key allies, including Mandela, Mbeki, and Mhlaba, he built an underground network called the High Organ. This clandestine group tackled the everyday realities of prison life and upheld internal order. Mandela and Mhlaba served as the secretariat, with Mandela taking the lead, and a fifth member was brought in on a rotation basis to maintain flexibility. By the time the post-1976 generation arrived at Robben Island, Walter's informal lectures on the ANC had evolved into a comprehensive curriculum known as Syllabus A. This robust program, masterminded by the High Organ, comprised 2 years of lectures covering the ANC's history and the broader liberation struggle. Insights into the Indian struggle by Kathrada, the story of the colored people, and even a Marxism course led by Mac Maharaj. Nelson Mandela himself recognized Walter's immense contribution to this educational revolution. The political spirit continued through Walter and Albertina Sisulu's children. Their eldest son, Max, was detained at merely 17 and later went into exile following his father's arrest during the Rivonia raids in 1963. Zwelakhe became actively involved with the New Nation publication, which faced restrictions multiple times. He was even detained without trial for 2 years, proving that the fight for justice ran deep in the Sisulu blood. The political shift in South Africa, which ultimately led to the release of political prisoners and the return of exiles, signaled a long-awaited reunion for the Sisulu family. Their years of struggle, separation, and sacrifice had finally begun to bear fruit in a new dawn for the nation. In April 1982, Walter Sisulu entered Groote Schuur Hospital in Cape Town for what was described as a routine medical examination. Coincidentally, the same month saw a pivotal moment in South African history. Sisulu, along with Mandela, Raymond Mhlaba, Andrew Mlangeni, and Wilton Mkhwai, were transferred from Robben Island to Pollsmoor Prison. This strategic relocation was orchestrated by the Botha government, seeking to maintain secrecy while attempting to persuade Mandela to accept the terms for a negotiated settlement with the African National Congress. In this environment, Mandela turned to his fellow inmates, particularly Sisulu, seeking wisdom and advice on how to navigate discussions with government representatives. One of Mandela's firm conditions was the early release of his co-accused. On October 15, 1989, after 26 arduous years behind bars, Rivonia trialists were set free, alongside Oscar Mpeta of the ANC and Jafta Masemola of the Pan-Africanist Congress. Their release ignited celebrations across the nation. Soweto became a vibrant tapestry of black, green and gold, and the Sisulu household was adorned with a giant ANC flag. Although still outlawed, the ANC emerged from the shadows into the light. Just a few months later, on February 2, 1990, the ANC was officially unbanned, with Nelson Mandela stepping into freedom 9 days after. Sisulu was soon involved in pivotal discussions, meeting with the ANC's external representative in Lusaka and being tasked with re-establishing the ANC's presence within South Africa. In May 1990, he engaged in discussions with government representatives at Groote Schuur, further bridging the gap between the ANC and the state's leadership. At the ANC's first conference held inside the country since its prohibition, Sisulu was elected deputy president in 1991. The tide of change surged in April 1994 when South Africans cast their votes in their first free and fair election, overwhelmingly choosing the ANC to lead the nation. Walter and Albertina Sisulu shared in the joyous victory alongside millions of their compatriots, celebrating a lifetime of struggle on July 17, 1994 with their 50th wedding anniversary. Over 1,000 attendees gathered at the Vista University Hall in Soweto to honor their remarkable contributions to South African history. Walter Sisulu served as deputy president of the ANC until health issues forced him into retirement in 1994. Nevertheless, he remained dedicated to his community's welfare, especially focusing on children and youth. Together with Albertina, they channeled their efforts into the Albertina Sisulu Foundation, which established a multi-purpose community center in Orlando West, Soweto. For most of their lives, the Sisulus resided in Soweto, only moving to a new home in Linden, Johannesburg, 4 years before Walter's passing. Walter Sisulu passed away on 5 May 2003, just days shy of his 91st birthday, leaving behind a legacy intertwined with the very fabric of South Africa's turbulent yet triumphant history.